The knock barely made a sound, but I heard it over the hum of the HVAC. I didn't look up. I was elbow deep in the logistics audit slides for next week's executive meeting. 72 line items, each one tied to a warehouse unit, with 2 flagged for questionable losses that legal was sniffing around. "Come in," I said, still clicking through inventory maps. The door creaked open. Jordan, the new compliance kid, maybe 24, straight from a state law school with a tie too tight and palms probably sweaty, stepped in holding a company tablet like it was radioactive. "Mr. McCall," he said, voice wobbling. "Do you have a moment?" I sighed, rolled my neck, and gave him a half smile. "Let me guess. Inventory write-offs or the Palmdale asset mix-up?" He blinked. "Actually, no. This is about your employment status." That made me stop. I turned to face him. "Excuse me?" He stepped forward, arms stiff, and turned the tablet to face me. A digital document glowed in blue light. A severance agreement. My name, my employee ID, everything. Signed, time-stamped, that morning. "Effective immediately," he said. "Your badge access has already been revoked." "Signed by me?" I said, voice flat. He nodded. "Yes, sir. This morning at 7:42. I laughed once. Not loud. The kind that comes out when something's so wrong it doesn't register yet. "I was in traffic at 7:42. You want to explain how I signed it?" Jordan glanced down at the screen, then back at me. "It looks like your signature." I stood up. The room shrank around him. I'm 6'1", and I've been at Orion for 27 years. This office used to be a mailroom when I got here. "Bring that," I said, nodding to the tablet. "You're coming with me." "Where?" "The boardroom." Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. He followed me down the hall like a freshman caught sneaking out of class. Lights buzzed overhead, and every employee I passed either avoided eye contact or glanced just a little too long. They'd already heard something. The conference room was on the 6th floor. Glass walls, 12 chairs, a giant whiteboard that still had my name under Director Operational Strategy. I built that meeting room. I fought for that budget. I signed off on the drywall. This wasn't a mistake. This was a hit. We hit the elevator. Jordan fidgeted, fingers gripping the tablet like a lifeline. "You really think I signed that document?" I asked him. I don't know. I just got sent down here." "Right," I said. "Then get ready. This is going to be your first real lesson in the corporate warfare." The elevator dinged. I stepped out. And I didn't look back. 3 weeks earlier, I was sitting at my desk finishing the monthly variance report when the first crack showed up. A calendar invite came through. Quarterly rebudgeting, scheduled for the following Monday. I clicked it open without thinking. But something felt off. I scrolled through the attendees list twice. My name wasn't on it. I'd led that meeting every quarter for 14 years. My department owned half the data that fed into it, and now, I wasn't even in the room. I leaned back in my chair, just staring at the screen. Not angry, not surprised either. Just clocking the move. I almost brushed it off. Figured it was a mistake. Then came the second red flag. A junior admin, brand new, probably still learning how to use Outlook, fat-fingered an internal reorg email and CC'd me by accident. Attached was a PDF, new org chart draft. My name was gone. So was my department. They'd folded us under Strategic Efficiency and Growth Initiatives, headed by Riley Chen. That name made my jaw tighten. Riley was Trent's little project. Slick haircut, no history, no backbone. The only thing he was known for was gutting teams in the name of operational efficiency and bragging about it over $8 cocktails. Last year, he cut 38 jobs in under a month and got a promotion for it. That's when I knew. They weren't planning to transition me. They were planning to erase me. I didn't slam my desk or yell. I stood up, grabbed my keys, and walked out. No one stopped me. 20 minutes later, I was in my garage, still in my dress shirt, tie loosened. Coffee in one hand, flashlight in the other. I popped open the old storage cabinet and dragged down a rusted metal lockbox from the top shelf. Inside was a thick folder, dusty but dry. Legal docs, EIN numbers, bank records, all stamped with the name Ironclad Holdings, LLC. Back in 2006, I thought I wanted to get into real estate. Bought 2 lots in Nevada, flipped one, held the other. Business fizzled out, but I never shut the entity down. I figured maybe someday I'd need it. Someday just showed up. I went back inside, laid everything on the kitchen table, and scrolled through my contacts until I found Curtis's number. My tax guy for over 20 years. Smart, fast, kept his mouth shut. He picked up on the second ring. "McCall?" "We're bringing Ironclad back to life," I said. There was a pause. Then a short laugh. "Someone finally poked the bear, huh? You could say that. I'll start the paperwork tonight." Next morning, I didn't go to the office. I worked from my home setup. VPN, burner drive, the whole 9 yards. I wasn't prepping spreadsheets anymore. Ironclad became my ghost shell. Separate, invisible, and very much alive. I filed 3 business purpose amendments to the original LLC charter, all legal, all boring looking. Real estate advisory services, operational consulting, strategic oversight, vague enough to fly under radar, specific enough to be useful later. Then I pulled up my personal storage vault. Not cloud, not shared, just me. I found the old executive infrastructure docs from Orion's founding phase, the same ones they forgot to scrub when they promoted Trent. That's where I found it. A loophole, buried in the original formation. Documents, Class C advisory shares issued at launch. Non-voting, unless a triggering event occurred. Guess what counted as a triggering event? An unsanctioned executive termination without board vote. They'd just handed me the golden key. I didn't get emotional. I got focused. I started moving pieces, quietly, patiently. Used Curtis's legal partner to reactivate dormant filings. Route financial updates through old RE channels no one would think to flag. Meanwhile, I logged into the legacy HR backend using the admin codes from Denise, my old assistant who retired 2 years ago and never changed her credentials. I shifted 3 legacy asset reviews into pending transition status and reassigned them to Riley. They'd think I was backing down, but I was building the tripwire. By Friday morning, I had everything I needed. Ironclad Holdings was officially reactivated. Clean EIN, current with the state of Nevada, new registered agent. Curtis had pushed it all through under a real estate advisory header, just like we planned. Nothing flashy. Nothing that would trigger compliance alerts. I sat at my home office desk, coffee going cold, flipping through the scanned founding documents from Orion's early days. The original operating charter was over 70 pages, buried in a PDF from 1996. And there it was, page 59, section 6.3, reversion of strategic voting rights. Buried in section 6.3 was an old clause about advisory shares and triggering events. No one had touched it in decades, and it still carried my name. I pulled up Ironclad's registration again and began drafting the proxy reassignment. Simple language, nothing aggressive. I, Darren McCall, proxy all strategic voting rights tied to Class C shares held under my name to Ironclad Holdings LLC, effective immediately. Curtis filed it through an old REIT structure, bundled with land title paperwork from back when Ironclad owned parcels in Clark County. Not a soul inside Orion's system would know to look for it. It was quiet, surgical, airtight. By noon, Ironclad legally held a deciding vote on strategic company direction, under rules still embedded in the founding framework. The best part, no one even remembered those shares existed. While Curtis handled the legal back end, I stayed busy upstairs. I logged into the old HR portal using Denise's credentials. She'd retired 2 years ago, but they never deactivated her back-end access. I updated the asset review tracker and rerouted legacy reporting responsibilities to Riley's team. Every one of those assignments came with a 60-day deadline and built-in failure metrics. I also dropped 3 shell projects into the workflow system, things with names that sounded just important enough to chase. Operation Eclipse Model, Legacy Arch Initiative, Cascade Sync Revamp. None of them were real, but they came with attached briefs, task flow diagrams, and 2 flag deadlines apiece. Enough chaos to keep Riley's nose buried in the wrong pile while I slipped a wire around their ankles. I knew how they thought. Guys like Trent and Riley don't look backward. They don't look down. They only look at what's next, what looks shiny in a board packet. So I gave them shiny, fake performance indicators, dummy data, a few buzzwords I knew would light them up, all while I worked in the shadows, sharpening the blade they thought they already buried. That night, I sat in my truck outside the office parking garage and watched the building lights flicker off one by one. 6th floor stayed lit the longest. Trent's office. He probably thought he'd won already. Probably had his speech ready for the next all-hands meeting. They always act confident right before the drop. I lit a cigarette I didn't plan to finish, just to taste the burn, then checked the timestamps on Curtis's final filings. Everything was locked. All they had to do now was try to fire me. 3 weeks later, that's how I ended up in the boardroom. I flipped to the final slide and let the numbers hang in the air. No one moved, no one breathed. Trent shifted in his chair like his skin didn't fit right anymore. Then I stepped away from the projector and laid a folder on the center of the table. Heavy, thick, sealed with a black elastic band. Before we move on, I said, there's one more document you all need to see. I undid the band and pulled out a notarized set of filings. State seal, signature, timestamp, everything. I held up the top page. Section 6.3, I said, sliding the document forward. The clause you ignored when you tried to terminate me. Now I had Rena's attention. Her eyes finally lifted off her phone. I watched her pupils twitch as she tried to process what I was saying. These shares, I continued, sliding the top document across the table toward her, have full proxy rights under Ironclad Holdings, filed legally as of 3 weeks ago. The room went still. You're bluffing, Trent said, standing up. That clause is ancient. No one's touched those shares in decades. Exactly, I said, which is why they're still mine. Rena skimmed the documents, lips tight. She wasn't scrolling anymore. She was reading, fast. You don't even work here, Trent barked. You were terminated this morning. I wasn't, I cut in. Because you didn't have the authority to terminate me. That's the trigger. You pulled it. I leaned both hands on the table. I'm not here to work, Trent. I'm here to vote. He looked toward the board chair, a woman named Ellen, who'd been around longer than even me. She wasn't blinking. She was flipping through the documents like she already knew this was real and just wanted to know how bad it was. This can't be valid, Trent said again, but this time it didn't sound like a statement. It sounded like fear. One of the younger board members, Davis, a compliance guy from Boston, cleared his throat. If the documents are filed and the clause is active, then Ironclad's vote counts. Silence. Then Ellen spoke, voice flat. Rena? Rena didn't look up. It's real. That was it. That was the moment. Trent's mouth opened, then closed. He looked like a man trying to hit the brakes with no pedal left. Ironclad Holdings now holds a proxy vote on the board, I said, calmly placing the remaining pages in front of Ellen. And as of this morning, you triggered the reversion clause by forging my termination. That vote reverts to the original equity holder, me. You can't do this. You already did it for me. I stepped back, let them all take it in. In 5 minutes, the same people who tried to delete me realized they'd handed me the steering wheel. Nobody said it out loud, but I could feel it in the air. They were scrambling inside their own heads, trying to remember who had signed what, who knew what, who was exposed. Rena finally leaned back, fingers steepled. He's not bluffing? This should have been cleaned up years ago. Ellen closed the folder, looked right at Trent. You knew nothing about this? Trent's voice cracked. It wasn't relevant. Not relevant, she snapped. You just gave controlling vote to a man you tried to fire. Jordan, poor kid, still stood near the door, frozen in place like he wasn't sure if he was allowed to leave or needed to duck. I walked back to the head of the table and took a seat. Not because I needed to, just because I could. Let's continue, I said, motioning to the next item on the meeting agenda. We've still got a budget discrepancy to review. Ellen didn't object. Neither did anyone else. I reached into my briefcase and dropped a small red flash drive on the table. It hit with a sharp click that broke the silence. That, I said, is why you should have checked your numbers before you came for me. Trent shifted again, face pale. What is this supposed to be? The audit you didn't ask for, I said. Let's take a look. I plugged the drive into the console. The big screen flickered, then filled with spreadsheets and transaction trails. A few people leaned forward. I navigated through the first file. $480,000, I said. Unapproved spending. 3 separate transfers authorized under your login, Trent. He opened his mouth, but I kept going. 2 to a consulting firm called Ardent Strategies. 3rd one to an account labeled Development Expenses out of Houston. All 3 shell companies trace back to the same mailing address. A condo in Scottsdale owned by Riley Chen's cousin. A few heads snapped toward Riley. He looked like he'd just swallowed glass. Those were vendor retainer fees, he stammered. Standard? Then explain this, I said, clicking into the next folder. Invoices dated before the engagement contracts were even signed. Memo approvals with forged initials from 2 department heads who were on vacation that week. I zoomed in on one. That's your handwriting, Riley. You didn't even bother to change pens. The room stayed dead quiet except for the sound of me moving the mouse. Next slide, falsified departmental memos. Strategic performance reports supposedly reviewed by finance. But the metadata showed they'd been created on Trent's machine at 2:14 a.m. on a Saturday. Then came the investor summaries, the ones showing strong margin growth that didn't exist. I watched faces drop as I highlighted each discrepancy in real time. Their empire of shortcuts was unraveling line by line. Phones started vibrating under the table. A couple of board members were already messaging legal counsel. One older director, Warren, was scribbling notes faster than he could think. "This is absurd," Trent said, voice trembling now. "You broke into systems. You stole confidential—" "I accessed my own work product," I said. "And the audit trail proves it. Every entry time stamped, every signature backed by digital cert. You wanted me gone because I was the one person who knew where the bodies were buried." Ellen cleared her throat. "And the whistleblower note?" I nodded. "Jenna from finance. She's been flagging inconsistencies since March. Every one of her emails was ignored or rerouted to Riley's folder." I brought up the file. A clean PDF, simple memo header. Subject: budget irregularities, strategic cost allocations. Her notes were meticulous. Cross-referenced GL codes, flagged duplicate vendor entries, even attached the original request chains. She'd done her job right. They'd buried her for it. I let the board read it in silence. For the first time, nobody looked at me with anger or pity, just realization. The truth was sitting right in front of them, and it stank. Rena leaned forward, finally speaking. These are serious violations." "Yeah," I said. "And they've been going on under Trent's signature since last fiscal year." Trent slammed his hand on the table. "This is a coup. You manipulated the system to—" I cut him off, voice low but sharp. "You handed me the matchbook. I just didn't set fire to myself with it." He froze. Color drained out of his face. You could almost hear the sound of his career collapsing under its own weight. Rena turned toward Ellen. "We'll need to initiate an internal review immediately." Ellen didn't look away from me. "How long have you known?" "Long enough to know the company deserved better," I said, "but short enough to let you fix it yourselves." Then I unplugged the flash drive, slid it across the table toward her, and sat back. No one tried to stop me. No one asked another question. They were already too busy trying to save themselves. Warren was the first to speak. He tapped the table once with his knuckle and said, "I move that we suspend Trent Lawson from his duties as CEO, effective immediately, pending a full internal investigation." Nobody blinked. Ellen looked around the room. "All in favor?" Hands went up, one after the other, quiet, clean, not a single hesitation. "Unanimous," she said. "Motion carries." Trent didn't yell, didn't argue. He just slumped back in his chair like the bones had gone out of him. Chest rising shallow, fingers still twitching near the nameplate he wouldn't need anymore. Even Riley didn't speak. He just looked down at the table like it might open up and swallow him whole. The silence that followed felt like an engine dying mid-flight. I stood slowly, slid the folder of documents back into my briefcase, and looked around the table at the same faces that once thought I was disposable. "I won't be taking the role of CEO," I said. That got their attention. A few heads jerked up, confused. Warren furrowed his brow. "Then who leads?" he asked. I reached into the inside pocket of my jacket and pulled out a folded sheet, thick paper, sealed. "She does," I said, laying the name on the table like a final play. "Jenna Martinez, finance analyst, 4th floor. She flagged the fraud 3 months ago. Nobody listened." They all stared at me like I'd lost it. "She's young," Ellen said, hesitating. "She's honest," I cut in. "She was the only person in this company who did her job when it counted. That matters more than age." A few murmurs, no laughter, just quiet, unsure movement as they processed what I'd just handed them. "I'm recommending the board appoint her interim," I said. "If she screws it up, fine, remove her. But I trust her more than anyone else in this building." Warren sat back and let out a long breath. "We'll review the appointment," he said. "But if what you've shown holds up, I don't think anyone here's got a better idea." I nodded once, then set the sealed envelope beside Jenna's name. It was my resignation, signed, dated, effective tomorrow. No drama, no second round. Just the exit I'd already planned. I picked up my briefcase, buttoned my jacket, and looked around the room one last time. Nobody clapped, nobody spoke. They knew the mess was theirs now. Rena was already on her phone. Ellen was typing furiously into a secure board portal. 2 others had stood up, talking in whispers. Legal, PR, damage control. The fallout had started before I even hit the door, and I didn't care. I didn't come to burn the place down. I came to hand them the matchbook and walk away before they lit it again. So I turned, stepped out of the room, and left them to it. I stepped into the hallway and let the boardroom door close behind me. No one followed. The carpet felt softer than I remembered. Cleaner, maybe. New money always wanted things to look polished, even if they were rotting underneath. I didn't look back, didn't need to. Elevator ride was quiet, just me and the sound of my breathing. Calm, focused, nothing left to say. The lobby guard, Lou, glanced up from his desk as I passed. His eyebrows twitched for a second, like he wasn't sure what to do. But then he gave me a nod. Not the usual wave, a real one. The kind of nod a man gives when he knows the truth, even if nobody says it out loud. I pushed through the front doors of Orion's headquarters for the last time. Sun hit my face hard. October light. Sharp, cold, unapologetic. I didn't squint. My truck was parked where it always was, 5th spot from the east stairwell, back against the curb. I slid the key in and opened the door. The leather seat groaned a little when I dropped into it. Same sound it made the day I bought it, back when Trent was still fetching coffee and calling me, sir. I sat for a moment. Not angry, not smug, just done. Then I reached for my phone and opened the Notes app. Scrolled down to something I wrote 5 months ago, after that first missed invite. It was short, 1 sentence. If they try to cut you out, don't fight. Just make sure they trip on the wire you left wrapped around their ankle. I read it once. Then again, then closed it. Turned the key. Engine fired up, smooth and low like it always did. No press release, no LinkedIn post, no long-winded goodbye. Just a man walking away with his head up, and a company full of people realizing too late that the blueprint they stole was still written in my hand. The same finance analysts they ignored for 2 years now had the power they thought they'd taken from me. And Ironclad Holdings still holds 5 shares, still has a vote. I don't need a title to matter. I just need them to remember what happens when they try to erase the wrong man. Then I pulled out of the lot and drove.